quite clearly. Welcome to Sterling Africa Immigration 101 training, a new dawn in Kenya under the ETA framework. I'll be your moderator. My name is Samuel Njoroge. I'm a partner in Sterling Africa. I'll be joined by two of my colleagues, Dennis and Mercy, who will be taking us through the slides and through the training. In terms of questions, if you have any questions, kindly post them in the chat, and we'll be taking a few breaks during the call, during the training, so that now we can go through all the raised questions. And at the end of the training, we're going to again go through all the questions that will not have been covered during the webinar. So welcome all. I'll give it to my colleague Dennis to make his introduction, and we start. Karibuni sana.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dennis from Sterling Africa LLP. I'm a senior consultant and immigration lead. I'm also joined by my colleague. We'll introduce herself as we go on. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Immigration 101 webinar. My name is Mercy Kinyanjui. I'm a senior associate at Sterling Africa. We are hoping to enlighten you on matters immigration today.
Okay, thank you, Mercy. Thank you, Dennis. Dennis, you can put on the slides so that we can begin. Dennis, I think you're on mute.
All right, thank you, Samuel. So welcome everybody to this webinar, Immigration 101, where we're going to be discussing all the applications that are needed for any foreigner who's coming into Kenya, starting from the ETA to the passes, to the work permits, to permanent residency, and we'll just dive in directly to ETA 101. All right. All right, so sorry for so this is Immigration 101, a new dawn in Kenya under the ETA regime. We've had changes from what previously was visas as you're coming into Kenya. We used to have you applying for visas through the eCitizen portal, so that you can get access to come into the Kenyan ports. So last year, at the end of the year, our president declared that Kenya is going to be a visa-free country. So basically, we're just going to delve into matters and understand if this is really a visa-free country or there's something small we need to pay. So today we are going to look at this, and I'll just jump into it. So we are going to have two sets of webinars where we are going to discuss the four matters which you're looking at currently. That is the ETA, the passes, the work permits, and the permanent residency. On the second webinar, we'll be discussing about citizenship and other matters to that area. So jumping into ETA, basically, what used to happen previously, we used to have the single visa, the transit visa, multiple entry visa, and the East African visa. So all this used to be applied from the eCitizen portal. You can see the costs there. Previously, the single entry visa was $51. It was valid for 3 months. Transit visa was $21. It was valid for 24 to 72 hours. Then the multiple entry used to cost $101 and was valid for 3 to 6 to 12 months. Currently, the East African visa is still there because of the other East African partners or states, and it costs $101 and it's valid $101 and it's valid for 3 months. So we have basically moved from this, as the president talked about this as having kind of scrapped off, so to a new platform, which is the ETA. So let's see what the ETA is all about. So the Kenyan ETA is a semi-automated system that determines the eligibility of visitors to travel to Kenya. So what do you need to know about ETA is who must obtain the ETA, the information required for the application, additional information on a case-by-case basis, the cost implication and the validity of the ETA, multiple entry into Kenya using an ETA, and where the whole process of applying for this ETA happens. And lastly, we'll look at even the exemptions to this ETA. So we jump straight into it, and who must obtain the ETA? So the ETA is mandatory for all foreign visitors who are coming into Kenya. We are going to see who are exempted from applying for this. This includes even the children who are under the age of 18. So this is where the legal parent or guardian accompanying the child is responsible for this application. There's also a provision for families traveling together to apply as a group. But when you're applying in this group, everybody in that group, let's say you're a family who is coming to see your family here in Kenya, or you're traveling to holiday as a group, you need to fill in that group slot, you need to fill in, everybody has to fill in their own. So everybody at the end of the day needs to have that ETA, but you can apply as a group going to one destination for a certain purpose. So that is who must obtain. That means everybody has to obtain that, apart from the exemptions that you're going to see later on. So what are the information required during this application? So we have the normal identification documents, photo, contact information, and your trip information. So this is basically the normal application for any application you do for government requirements. They'll ask for this, the identification documentation being your passport, your photo, that's a current passport, that is, the contact information, where you're coming from, your trip information, your itinerary, what exactly you're coming to do, if it's on holiday, where you're going to be at, if you're coming to see family, where you're going to be at, basically all the information that's going to be asked. It's pretty much straightforward when it's there, but we are going to see the rest of it. So additional information will be required on a case-by-case basis, where we have the travelers who are arriving for employment purposes. This is whereby you're coming as an employee, or maybe your parent company is in a different country from Kenya and you've been sent to Kenya. So for travelers arriving on business, you'll be able to be asked about your invitation letter from that company, which you're coming to do business with, a copy of registration of that company. For travelers who are visiting family, you need an invitation letter from the family or the host, the identification of that family and host. Those who are coming for diplomatic travel, we have a diplomatic, stock official and service passport. And also the requirement will be an official letter from the current country of origin, the organization, or the home foreign affairs. So that's on a case-by-case basis, the additional documents which are needed. So we jump straight into what's the cost implication of this validity and validity of the ETA. So the president talked about this being free. Well, he had his own reasons as to why, and this is government policy. But what is there is that you have to pay a cost of $34 per traveler. And this includes, it's actually $30 plus $4 for bank transactions for processing fees. And this is valid for 90 days. So you might be having emergency cases where probably you've been sent into the country by your head office. You just come abruptly and you have not been able to apply for this within the 3 days stipulated. So there's normally an emergency in case of an emergency where you're meant to pay $52 and it's approved within 24 hours. So that applies to those people. It's actually at a premium. All right. So does this ETA give you multiple entry into Kenya? No. Basically, you just have to do one entry with it. But we'll see in the exemptions on who is going to be, can come in again with it and during what time duration. So the validity of the ETA is single entry into Kenya. Basically, you come with it once. You go out, you apply again for it. But we'll see on the exemptions. So some of the exemptions to this, your ETA remains valid for more than one entry if, look at these conditions, if you visit one of the following East African partner states, that's Burundi, DRC, Rwanda, South Africa, South Sudan, Tanzania and Uganda, then you don't visit any other country. So what it means there is that if you have the ETA and you come into Kenya and you visit another country which is not East African partner state, you will be, and then you come back to Kenya, you'll be asked to apply for another ETA. Remember, you have gone and the 90 days of which is 3 months from issuance have not expired. But you see, you contravened one of the requirements, which is you have to be in an East African partner state. So we'll see also there's a recent development in about 2 days ago where we have a number, I think five countries which have come into this arrangement, which you'll just see as we go by. So what is the application process for this ETA? So basically, the government has provided the portal where you just go in and log in. So all ETAs must be applied from that particular portal. You can't just go to any other sub site where it's going to lead you to this portal where you need to apply this. So it's very direct. It's www.etakenya.go.ke. So you click on apply and follow the instructions. They are basically pretty much there. And then make sure you have all the documentation, the basic documentation, which I'll just read for you. So you click apply, make sure all the data has been entered correctly. You need to apply correctly because once you submit and there's a problem, means you might be asked to do another application, which might cost you another $34. So you have to be very careful with the data you're putting in, has to be very correct, has to be very exact. So make sure all the data is correct. Okay, and then submit the application. In that portal, you'll be asked to put in your email where a notification for your application will be sent. Then an email confirming receipt of payment, if applicable, also will be sent to your email. So you need to print this out, the PDF that is sent back to you, or you can save it on your phone, because this is now needed at every, let's say you're coming from, give an example of a country like Spain. At when you're entering the plane, you need to show this and you're coming to Kenya. So you need to have it probably printed or your phone. You can show it to the flight crew so that they can allow you to actually even board the plane from where you're coming from. So you are only, okay, and notice that you're only allowed to travel after your application has been approved by the government of Kenya. Say it's not been approved, so they will give you the reason of not being approved. Maybe there was a wrong document which was put up or something. For whatever reason, they may not approve your travel. They'll let you know. So that's what you are allowed to what basically makes you get allowed to travel. So let's look at what are the exemptions for this ETA. So this is exempted to any persons who holders of a valid Kenyan passport. If you're coming back or you're a Kenyan, you don't have to apply for the ETA, or one-way emergency certificate issued by Kenyan missions abroad that allows you to just come in and you don't have to apply. Holders of Kenya's permanent residence, valid work permits and passes. So yeah, basically when you have that, you're still not supposed to apply for the ETA. Yeah, remember this has to be valid documents. Basically this started in January 2024. So for example, you had applied for your visa or your work permit came, or your visa, because there's a visa which has gone out. Your visa was applied in December and gives you 3 months to be there. So that is going to lapse up until when your 3 months is over. After that, you'll be able to apply for the ETA. You won't be given the chance to go back to the visa platform. So the next people who are exempted are holders of valid UN conventional travel documents issued by the government of Kenya. The others are members of a diplomatic mission and international organization accredited to Kenya. Continuation of these exemptions is that this is where I was telling you, apart from the East African partner states, which are 6 of them, sorry, there are how many? Yeah. So there are some new countries which came in. Remember, we have South Africa, who, when Kenyans travel to South Africa, there was that last year, they were given that visa-free option. So I think the government saw it proper to have this come in also for us to reciprocate on the same. So we have South Africa, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Congo Brazzaville, Comoros, Mozambique, and a country called San Marino. So these are countries which are included in this list. So these guys have to apply for basically they have to put the information, but they don't have to pay for the ETA. That is a point that needs to be remembered. So these things keep on changing, but we'll keep on advising as they change, because this was not there last 2 days. So it's a new platform, so you can expect a few things to change here and there. So the other group of people who are exempted from this is all passengers in transit through Kenya arriving and leaving by the same aircraft or transferring to another aircraft. So basically, if you're doing transit, you don't need to do any application for this. The next batch is for all passengers arriving and leaving by ship. So this applies to all air, land, sea, who do not leave their ship. Remember, you don't leave the ship, so you don't have to apply. Same concept around airport. You're moving from one flight to the next within the precincts of the airport. You don't have to apply the ETA. So the next batch of people again is members of crew of any ship, aircraft, train, vehicle, or carrier, whose name and particulars have been included in the crew manifest. So the captains, the flight attendants, those are not included in this. The other batch is owners of private aircraft stopping over to refuel in Kenya and do not leave the precincts of the airport. So that's pretty much straightforward on who needs to apply and who needs to be exempted as at this point. So this is how it looks like once you go to www.etakenya.go.ke. This is what you'll see. Just click on there where we have the apply, and it brings you everything that you need to apply. All the documentations that you have, you just put them there. Your email, your flight manifest, where you're supposed to go, and all those kind of things are all there. So for you, it's just to feel it's pretty much user friendly. So we have countries which normally give this ETA. So we're just trying to look at what's the comparison in terms of how much they're charging for this and compared to Kenya here. We have Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, South Korea, UK, and the Shenzhen countries. So the Shenzhen visas, that is. So the amount in USD, so this is their local currency, and the amount in USD and the difference there. So you can see, like for Australia, we have 13.42. That's a difference of 16. That's a whole difference of 16. New Zealand, same thing, 14, a difference of 15.63. Canada, $5, and then that's a difference of 24.78. UK, 12.66, difference of. So basically, from all these countries who are giving ETA, clearly we are the people who, clearly Kenya is a bit high. All right, so up to this point, I'm going to ask if there are any questions so far. I'll give it back to you, Samuel, to check on this, and then we can answer.
That was quite clear, Dennis. I think my main question, the one that was there, was about the exemptions and how it's going to apply. So you've already clarified that even if the exemptions are there, you still need to make the application. It's just that it will be free. There's no payment for those countries that are going to be exempted. So for now, just if there's any questions, you can raise your hand and you can proceed. In case of, I've not seen any questions on chat. So for now, we can go to the next part of the training.
Okay.
And any comments, any queries, just put them in the chat, and we'll be able to handle them as we continue. So over to you, Dennis and Mercy. Let's continue.
Okay, so for that part of the ETA now, which serves as a visa, we are done. Maybe we'll have the questions later. So the next part of this is now after the 3 months have lapsed for the ETA, what next? So that part you're going to be taken through by my colleague, Mercy, who's going to explain on the passes. Mercy?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dennis. The next part will be the immigration passes that are issued in Kenya, making reference to what Dennis told us. If you hold a valid pass from Kenya, then you're exempt from applying for an ETA. So in this section, we look at what are these passes and what are the requirements for the passes and what you need to pay. So passes are provided for by Regulation 26 to 34 of the Kenyan Citizenship and Immigration 2012. And there are 3 main types of passes that are issued in Kenya. That is the special pass, a dependent pass, a student research / internship pass. And we'll begin with the first one, which is the special pass. A special pass is issued under Regulation 34 of the Kenyan Citizenship and Immigration Regulation, and it's issued to persons who wish to enter and remain in Kenya for a limited period. This is usually up to 6 months for purposes such as applying a review of a decision denying a permit. You applied a work permit, it was denied. You can apply for a special pass as you wait for immigration to review the decision of denying you, but you have to apply to the immigration. The second one is if you're applying for a work permit or another pass, then you can be given a special pass as you await the approval of the same. The third one is where you're temporarily conducting a business, a trade, or a profession here in Kenya, then you can be given a special pass to enable you conduct your business. And any other purpose in which an immigration officer may consider suitable for you to be given a special pass. And you note a special pass is approved for 3 months, and then you seek an extension of another 3 months where you have proof that you've actually applied for a work permit or you applied for a review of a decision denying you a work permit. So what are the application requirements for a special pass? Special passes are usually applied through the Electronic Foreign National Service, or what we call the EFNS system. That is the link, efns.immigration.go.ke. The application requirements are as follows. You need a duly filled, signed, and stamped Form 32. You get this from the EFNS portal. You need a cover letter from the organization you're working for, which is addressed to the Director General of Immigration Services. You need 2 passport-sized photos. You need to show your current immigration status if you're in Kenya. You need a valid national passport, a copy of the registration certificate of the organization that you're working for. You need to show academic and professional certificates of you as the applicant. If you've held any passes or permits before, you need to present the same. And in case you've applied a work permit and you're applying the special pass as you await, you need the acknowledgement showing that you've applied. So there's no processing fee for special pass, but upon approval, you're required to pay 15,000 per month. This means if you're given 3 months, it's 15,000 times 3, which is 45,000. That is for non-East Africans. If you're an applicant from an East African member state, then it is free. And the application usually takes 10 days to 1 month. And you also note that an approval of a special pass does not allow you to engage in business or profession. You have to first pay for the special pass in order to have it, and then you'll be able to use it as your legal status here in Kenya. The second pass is the dependent pass. This is issued to a person who's a spouse, a parent, or a guardian who's lawfully entitled to enter Kenya. People who qualify are dependents of one, Kenyan citizens, or a permit holder, or an exempted person, or someone who has a PR resident. So if, for example, a husband has a PR or a permanent residence, then the spouse and the children can apply for a dependent pass under that. So what are the requirements to apply? You'll need to fill an application form 28. Again, you'll get this from the EFNS portal. You need to do a cover letter to the Director General of Immigration Service, a national passport, copy of both the applicant and the dependent. You need to show current immigration status of the applicant and the dependent. You need to show proof or evidence of the relationship between the applicant and the dependent. So if it's a spouse, you show the marriage certificate. If it's a minor, you show the birth certificate. In some instances, you need to show documentary proof of any other condition that may lead to someone depending on you. It could be a medical condition, a disability, or age. And in some instances, you can be required to provide a sworn-in affidavit of incapacity or inability of the dependent to depend on themselves. Where someone is depending on a work permit the work permit needs to be valid for a period of at least 6 months before its expiry. So the processing fee here is 0, and the issuance fee for East Africans is 5,000. For East Africans, it's free. And you should note under dependent passes, holding a dependent pass does not guarantee that you can receive an education or training here in Kenya. You need to apply for a student pass. And holding a dependent pass does not guarantee, or rather, you're not allowed to work or engage in employment or trade if you are a dependent pass holder. The other category is the Kenya Student Pass. This is issued to foreign students under Section 30 of the Kenyan Citizenship and Immigration Regulations that wish to pursue the education in Kenyan education and training institution where they have been accepted and admitted. So the applicant must have been accepted before they can make the application. So there are some requirements for the Kenyan Student Pass. You need to fill a Form 30. You'll get this from the EFNS portal. You need to do a letter to the Director of Immigration Services. The letter should be done by the institution of education that you'll be going to. You need a signed commitment letter from the sponsor, the person who's sponsoring the education. And if you're self-sponsored, then you need to show proof of funds. For minors, you need a consent letter from the parent, a copy of the parent's national passport, a birth certificate for the minor, and the proof of relationship. You'll need duly signed copies of academic certificates. If you're joining a university here in Kenya, then you'll need to show your basic academics certificates, which needs to be certified. In the case where your documents are in another foreign language, they need to be translated either by the embassy, a public notary, or a recognized institution. And in some cases, you'll need to show police clearance. And upon when you're renewing the student pass, you need to show other previous student passes that you've held before. So there is no processing fee for a student pass. The issuance fee for non-East Africans is 5,000. For East Africans, it's free. And there's a disclaimer that immigration gives that you should do this application 3 months before commencing your studies. The other pass is where you're coming to Kenya as an intern or you're coming for research purposes. So the application requirements are similar to that one of the Kenyan student pass, just that where you required letters from the education institution, we will need to show the letter of the institution where you intend to intern or you intend to do research from. And yeah, in case you're coming here for research, you'll need a permit from the National Council of Science and Technology to enable you undertake the research program. And if the person is a minor, of course, you have to attach the parents' documentations. Yeah, the processing fee, is 0, and the issuance fee for the internship pass is 15,000 per year for non-East Africans. For East Africans, it's free. You should note if you hold an internship pass, you're not allowed to engage in employment. To engage in employment, then you need to acquire a Kenyan work permit. And with that, those are all the passes that the Kenyan immigration law provides for. If there are any questions, you can raise them. If not, I'll hand it over to Samuel.
So there's one query that I have in regarding the passes. Previously, what used to happen is that if someone is coming for work, we'll get them a business visa, and then when they're in the country, we'll process the pass, the required pass. Now, because it's a 3 months, ETA is the same. So can we still do the same? That ETA is for 3 months, you come into the country, and by the time the 3 months have elapsed, we've already processed your first pass.
Yes, Samuel, it's very possible. In that case, you will apply for an ETA with the purpose of coming to do business here in Kenya or for the purpose of employment. And once you get to Kenya and the 3 months are lapsing, you can apply for a special pass. This will enable you to have another 3 months where you can conduct your business or your employment. And the special pass is also renewable. After the 3 months, you can extend for another 3 months. If you don't intend on staying in Kenya for longer than that, then that will do. If you intend to stay longer than that, then you apply for a work permit as you extend your special pass. We're waiting the decision to approve your work permit. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, and in scenarios where we have challenges, so for example, let's say the special pass has not been processed on time, and my 3 months are ending, will I be required to maybe step into another country, then travel out, then travel back, which will mean I'll process another ETA, which gives me more time. What would be the practical way of doing it? Do we wait, because I'm already in the country, do I wait for the special pass? Meaning that for a certain period, I do not have the right documents, or what would you advise?
Unfortunately, if you don't have a legal status here in Kenya, you'll need to come out of Kenya, come back with an ETA.
Well, in addition to that, once you have the ETA for 3 months, basically you know what's your calendar. You know exactly why you come. So the ETA being valid for 3 months, in like month 2, you're already starting to apply for this special pass. So it gives you enough time because the special pass are supposed to be out in about 2 weeks. So basically, we really need to understand how your program is because of so that you're not an illegal at any given time.
Thank you. I think that covers it quite clearly. Dennis, you can proceed with the next step. I've not seen any questions so far on the chat. So please, if you have any queries, you can put them there, and then we're going to handle them as we proceed. Thank you. Dennis?
All right. So next we are going to look at the work permits. So when you look at the journey, you come from the ETA to the special pass. Now, at the second, this is what the first 3 months of the special pass. The second 3 months, of course, you're showing that now you want to be in Kenya for particular activity would be which you're going to look at. So this is now where we come into the work permit side of it. So we have different classes of work permit, depending on what exactly has got you or what exactly you want to do. So we'll just go directly into it. And the first class of this work permit is for prospecting miners. So this permit is issued to people or persons who intend to engage, whether alone or in partnership, in prospecting for mineral or mining in Kenya. So here you are coming in as an investor. So one of the biggest things that you need to show to the Directorate of Immigration is that there's proof of funds for investment of at least a minimum of $100,000. This is from a certified bank statement, which shows this. Then we have a number of paperwork that you need to do. There's normally a duly filled and signed application form 25, which just basically puts in your all your details there, date of birth, all those kind of questions there. But they're just pretty much straightforward about you. Then you need a signed cover letter from the organization addressed from the organization which is coming in or which has sent you, which is being addressed to the Director General of Immigration. A copy of your national passport, valid passport, that is, 2 recent colored passport size photos, your current immigration status if you're in the country. That is, that means that you're already having a special pass at that point. You need to attach to that. Then we have the TCC for the tax compliance certificate for new cases, plus individual tax compliance for renewal cases. Then another big thing you need to have is a license to prospect for mineral, for mines, for mining that is. And then if it is for renewal cases, you need to have a current license of the mining and a copy of a PIN certificate. Again, also, if it's for renewal, you need to have the audited accounts for the last 1 year. So the processing fees for this is a non-refundable of Kenya shillings 10,000, and the issuance for the same is 100,000 per year. For East African member states, this is free, basically without a charge. So that is for the first class, Class A. We jump into the Class B, where we have agriculture and animal husbandry. So this is issued to persons who intend to engage, whether alone or in partnership, in business of agriculture and animal husbandry. Basically, this is you're coming as a farmer or in terms of agriculture. So again, here you're coming in as an investor, 100,000 US dollars minimum proof with a statement, certified statement. The documents which are required for this, probably most similar to all the classes, but I can also still go through, which is the duly filled form 25, signed cover letter from the organization, copy of the valid national passport, 2 recent passport photos, current immigration status, TCC tax compliance, that is, for renewal cases. Then a very big point that you also need to show here is there is a need for proof of land ownership or leasehold. And then you also need to have clearance licenses from relevant agricultural bodies, which we can look into once we go deeper into it. And then for renewal cases, you need to have current audited accounts. And the processing fee for this is a non-refundable of Kenya shillings 10,000. And then issuance for 1 year is normally 100,000. For East Africa Community member states, this is free. So you can see basically the application, the paperwork is more or less the same from the other class, apart from 1 or 2 items. The third class is a prescribed profession. So this is permit issued to a person who is a member of a prescribed profession who intends to practice that profession. So this is a point to note, practice that profession, whether alone or in partnership in Kenya. So here you're not being asked for the USD proof of $100,000. So this is a bit less engaging in terms of having to show that. So the application for this, you will have the normal requirements which have been asked for in the class above, which is the duly signed Form 25, cover letter from the employer or organization addressed to the Director General of Immigration, copy of your national passport, valid one, 2 recent colored passport size photos, current immigration status if you're in the country, proof of membership of the prescribed profession. Probably you're an architect, you need to show some membership in those membership, the membership or membership bodies, a copy of the PIN. Also here you have to show copies of certified academic and professional qualifications. So here at some point you actually have to be asked even for your CV. So this is a bit different from the 2 classes we looked at. So the processing fee for this is non-refundable of Kenya shillings 10,000 and an issuance of 100,000 per year. East African member states, this is free. So who are these prescribed professions? You can see there where we have legal professions, surveyors, valuers, architects, pharmacists, surgeons, engineers, etc. You can see them in the slide there. So then the next class here is where we go to employment. So you've been sent by your company from abroad to come and work in Kenya, maybe in the subsidiary or such kind of an arrangement. So this is where you need this work permit, this class of work permit. This permit is issued to a person who is offered specific employment by specific employer, the government of Kenya, or any other person or authority under the control of the government or an approved technical aid scheme under UN or some other approved agency. So this one is a bit slightly different in terms of issuance. Passport, your passport, a valid passport, color photos, current immigration status if you're in the country. Here you also have to put in your CV and your certified academic qualifications, professional certificates. Here you actually have to name a Kenyan understudy, somebody who can come in and stand in if you're not there. So you actually have to have a Kenyan understudy who is also going to present their papers. There's a slot there where you need to put all the details of that understudy. You also have to put the CV of that's the curriculum vitae of the understudy, a certificate of registration of the organization you're coming to work for, or you're coming from, and then clearance letter from relevant authorities. So that is the issuance for, basically that's about the employment part of it. The next class is specific manufacturing. So this one is issued to persons who intend to engage, whether alone or in partnership, in a specific manufacture in Kenya. So this person who is coming in to do manufacturing is basically an investor also. So you can see there you have to put in proof of funds, which is a minimum of $100,000, proof of bank statement certified. And what are the requirements in terms of what you need to put in? Same, with only slightly small differences here and there. So which we have the signed application form 25, which you just get it from the EFNS portal, put all the details, which is your biodata details and all that. Signed cover letter from the DG Immigration, the Director General of Immigration Services, a copy of the national passport, 2 recent color passport size, current immigration status, a copy of the license held, then registration certificate of the company. Now here you need to have a memorandum of understanding from the company, articles of association, which are signed. Then if it's for renewal cases, this is you have to provide current audited accounts. The shareholders certificate, that's a CR12, and a copy of the PIN. The processing fee is the same, 10,000 shillings, non-refundable. And the issuance is Kenya shillings, 100,000 per year. For East African community members, that's free. So that's about Class F. Class G, so here you can see we have specific trade, business, or consultancy. So this is also slightly different from prescribed profession. So you'll see this. So this is issued to persons who intend to engage whether alone or in partnership in a specific trade, business, consultancy, or profession, other than the prescribed profession in Kenya, prescribed profession in Kenya. So this one's we've already seen in the earlier class. So, sorry, excuse me. So this one is, you need to show proof of investment, because this is you're also coming in as an investor. So what is needed here? We look at the specific trade, the requirements is still the same. Duly signed application form, slightly different requirements. The cover letter addressing the Director General of Immigration, copy of national passport, 2 recent colored passport photos, immigration status, if you're already in the country, memorandum of understanding, articles of association, copy of PIN, and if it's for renewal cases, you have to show the audited accounts. And so the processing fee for this is 10,000, and which is non-refundable. And then the issuance for this is 100,000 per year. East African community member states, this is absolutely free. Okay, there are no charges that is. So the other class for this is the approved religion or charitable activities. This is issued to persons and members of an institution registered under Societies Act who is engaged as a missionary, member of company limited by guarantee, member of a trust registered under Trustee Act and is approved by the government of Kenya, and whose presence in Kenya will be of benefit to Kenya. So this is also a very important point. You have to show that. So the application and renewal requirements. So this one is still the same. We still have the Form 25, which just gives in the biodata details and a few extra things, but it's straightforward. Signed cover letter from the Director General of Immigration. Signed, that is addressed to the Director General of Immigration. A copy of national passport, colored passport size photo, current immigration status, and then the registration certificate of the organization. That's important. Certified copies of academic and professional certificates. So processing fee for this is 1,000, non-refundable. Issuance is 5,000 per year. East African member states is gratis, that is free or no charge. So the next is permit. The next class is for ordinary citizen. So this is someone who's come here. Is not an investor, is not anybody who is working for any organization. So you just, you're around, you need the work permit. So the permit is issued to persons who is not less than 35 years of age, has his or her own right and full and free disposition, an assured annual income of not less than USD 24,000. It's about 2,000 monthly. undertakes not to accept employment. It's a very key point. Paid or unpaid, or engage in any income generating activity of any kind without a permit or the relevant class, whose presence in Kenya will be of benefit to Kenya, of course. So the requirements for this are still the same, but the biggest requirement here is you have to show documentary proof of annual assured income of at least $24,000 as per the requirement there. So what's the processing fee? It's 10,000 non-refundable. Issuance is 100,000 a year. East Africa Community is no charge. So, and then the next class is refugees. This permit is issued to persons who are granted refugee status in Kenya in accordance with the refugee law, Kenya. So what does this act say? That the refugee identity cards will have at least the same status as the identity cards issued to other foreign nationals in Kenya, commonly known as alien cards. So application for this requirement is basically free because of that refugee status. So once you've been given this work permits, you also need to apply for alien cards. That's basically like your ID to show that you're here for a certain period of time. Just applying for this is not enough and getting it. You need to also apply for that alien card. The alien card is around 2,000, Bob. It's not a big charge. So it's just basically an ID for a foreigner. So as at that point, I think I'll take it back to Samuel. If you have any questions on this or anything that's burning that I need to address, at this point, I give it to you.
Okay, Dennis, thank you so much for that. I see a few questions on the chat group, so let's go through that. So the first one is on ETA. So it's on ETA and I think as well permits. So let's start with ETA. First question from Leonard. Citizens of EAC member states exempt from ETA? If so, is there a timeline for the exemption?
Yes, sorry for that. Yes, thank you, Sam. Yes, they're exempted for 6 months. Actually, they are not supposed to apply for ETA, and they're exempted. They actually can be in Kenya for 6 months.
What happened after the 6 months has lapsed?
Yeah, they need to go out.
And then come back with a renewed 6 months.
Yes, with a renewed ETA. Sorry, not with a renewed ETA, but they need to show that they have gone out of the country, then they can come back. But after 6 months has lapsed, they need to get out.
So that's the first one. The second one on still ETAs is will newlywed non-Kenyan spouses of Kenyan citizens be required to pay for the ETA on entry into the country, or is this situation covered under the dependency clause? So assuming that I'm a non-Kenyan spouse, I do not have any other documentation. I'm in the country. Will I be required to apply for ETA? We can start with someone who doesn't have the dependency or permit of birth.
All right. So for this is the ETA. Both the couple don't have any legal document as them being Kenyans. So it means they have to apply for ETA, both of them. Now, if one of them had a permit or with a pass, basically permanent residency or work permit, the other couple should be able to apply for a dependency pass. First of all, they come in as an ETA and apply for the dependency pass.
So the question is, I'm Kenyan. I have a spouse. My wife, for example, is non-Kenyan, and they don't have maybe that dependency pass. So when they travel, will they be required to apply for ETA?
So what is your spouse is not a Kenyan, right?
Yes, I am Kenyan.
So you're Kenyan. So you have to apply. You have to apply as a spouse when you're coming back to Kenya.
And unless I'm getting from you, unless someone already has a dependency pass, then in that case, then
yes.
okay.
If you have a dependency pass, there is no issue. There is no need for you to raise the ETA to apply for the ETA.
Okay. The other one for under ETA are private jet owners stopping in Kenya to refuel required to get an ETA?
No. As long as they're in the precincts of the airport, they are not leaving the airport. So if they are not leaving the airport, they don't need to apply for the ETA. If they will be leaving the airport, probably to go to Nairobi CBD or, yeah, they have to apply for an ETA. But if they are not leaving the airport, there's no need to apply for ETA.
Okay. The next question again from Mwangi Kimoto is regarding refugees. Sorry, it's uploaded. And as regards refugees, since the alien card is issued once refugee status has been confirmed in country, are potential refugees required to pay the ETA at the port of entry?
No, because when you look at the Refugees Act, okay, so this is where we are saying that already these people have already been given the refugee status before they even come into the country, if I understand correctly. So they don't need to apply for that ETA.
As long as they've already been given refugee status, then they do not have to apply for an ETA.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Because you see, the refugee status is like a work permit kind of thing.
Okay.
And then the next one, we looked at. Okay.
No, proceed, sorry.
It's okay, proceed, just proceed. It's okay, just proceed, it's okay.
Mwangi Kimoto, before I come to you, let me just finish on the query. So the other one was from Eric regarding permanent residency. So he has applied for permanent residency. He already has an investor permit. And let me read the question. So I have had investor permit and decided to apply for permanent residence. This permanent residence application is a process of back and forth. And now I'm not sure if I should just wait or I will lose my right to renew a work permit. Okay. What would you advise such as?
So permanent residency takes about 6 months to a year plus. It's actually a very long process because there's even the involvement of an interview. This goes up to the immigration committee that sits to give you this residency status. So if your work permit is lapsing or, just about to end and your permanent residency has not come out, it's only advisable for you to apply or renew your work permit, hoping that by the time this process of the 6 to normally goes for some time because it's upon the immigration's discretion. So it's just a matter of follow-up, just know what's happening there so that you're also able to know if do I apply for a renewal or what do I do? Because once the work permit lapses, you see now you're not having a valid status of being in the country. So it's just a matter of you look at your schedule for your current work permit. If you see this thing, if you've been pushing and it's not been processed, just apply for another one and just give it time to see if you're going to get the interview. Because even that interview process is done for the permanent residency. I can't hear you, Samuel. You're on mute.
Sorry. So I know there was one question that there was a raised hand from Mwangi Kimoto. So Kimoto, what you can proceed.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Samuel and the team. My question has to do with the refugee issue as responded to, I feel like it was not well captured. Because the sequence of events usually is that the refugee enters into the country, and then once they are in the country, that's when their refugee status is processed, after which they are issued with a refugee ID card or an alien card. So at the point of entry, because they have not yet been issued with an alien card or a refugee card, because their refugee status is still pending, are they treated like any other person coming into the country and therefore will be required to pay the ETA?
All right, thank you, Kimolo. So it will be, since you've clarified that about their status is a refugee already when they're in Kenya. So what happens is, for that, if they are not coming from the from the states that we've looked at, they'll have to apply for the ETA. They will definitely have to apply because, you see, their status hasn't been confirmed yet, right? They'll have to apply for the ETA.
All right,
now,
thank you.
So what are the refugee countries which are around us? If you look at them, from what I've looked at, we have, I mean, is it Somali and South Sudan? So those ones are already in the slides where they are already exempted, coming with an ETA. But if they are coming from other countries which are not exempted, they'll have to apply for that ETA. Thank you, Kimo, for that clarification.
Oh, all right, thank you. Well answered.
Okay. So do we have any?
For posting your queries, and then we can proceed to permanent residency. Then we're going to have a Q&A at the end. Over to you, Mercy and Dennis.
Okay, so after this, we'll now go to the next level where we have the permanent residency. So keep track of how you're going from ETA to passes, work permit. Now we are going to permanent residency, where my colleague Mercy will take you through. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. This section will be discussing permanent residency. So permanent residency allows the applicant to have legal resident status here in Kenya permanently. Which means you can enjoy services like a Kenyan, you can own properties, you can start a business, you can be employed. So permanent residency status came into existence after the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was promulgated. And there are 4 categories that are provided for by the Kenyan Citizenship and Immigration Act. We have the first category, which is category A of ex-citizens of Kenya. So this applies to Kenyan citizens by birth who renounced or lost Kenyan citizenship, and the country of domicile does not allow them to hold dual citizenship. So this means you moved to a different country, you acquired the citizenship there, but the country that you moved to does not allow you to be both a citizen of that country and a Kenyan citizen. So you had to renounce your Kenyan citizenship. So you can apply for permanent residency as an ex-Kenyan. There are requirements to apply, which you need to do application letters to the Director of Immigration. You need to fill a Form 23 from the EFNS portal. This has to be signed and stamped by a magistrate or a commissioner for oaths. You need a Category A questionnaire. This will be generated after you complete the online application. And you need proof of previous Kenyan citizenship. This can be your birth certificate, it can be your Kenyan ID card, it can be your Kenyan passport. You need 2 passport size photos, police clearance issued by your country of domicile, and proof of current citizenship. The country you moved to, did you gain citizenship by registration, naturalization, or you have a passport in that country? The processing fee is an unrefundable fee of 10,000, and upon approval, you'll be required to pay 15,000. The second category is category B, which is a lawful resident. This applies to applicants who've held a Kenyan work permit for a minimum of 7 years, and you've been a resident in Kenya for a continuous 3 years prior to you applying for the permanent residency and a lawful resident. You also must demonstrate a strong position to make tangible contribution to socioeconomic development of Kenya. And priority for this kind of permanent residence is given to investors and highly qualified profession. So under this, you may be required to appear in person for an interview with the Permanent Residency Advisory Committee, of course, to confirm and verify the facts. The documentation you require to apply for this permanent residency, we have an application letter addressed to the Director of Immigration. We have a Form 23, which will be signed and stamped by a Commissioner of Oaths. You need a questionnaire. This is generated when you complete the online application. You need a duly filled resident status. This will be generated when you complete your online application. You need to have a valid passport, police clearance, an original copy and a copy. You need to have a valid tax compliance certificate because you've been a holder of a work permit. Of course, you've been having income and you've been filing for taxes here in Kenya. You need to show that by giving them a valid tax compliance certificate. You need a valid foreigner certificate, what is normally called an alien card, and you need an introductory letter from an employer if you have a permit under Class D. The processing fee for this permanent residency is 10,000, and upon approval, their issuance fee of 500,000. There are similar requirements for the spouse of a PR holder. You'll need to do a letter to the Director of Immigration. You'll need a Form 23, signed and stamped by a Commissioner of Oaths. You'll need the Category B questionnaire, a resident status form. You need to produce a certified copy of a valid marriage certificate. You need a copy of any dependent pass that the spouse has held or a work permit that they hold here in Kenya. You need police clearance for the spouse, an introductory letter from the employer. You need a valid passport, a valid foreigner certificate, and yeah. The application and processing fee is the same, 10,000 and 500,000 issuance. For the child of a PR holder, you'll need to fill the Form 23. You'll need to do an application letter to the Director of Immigration. You'll need a Category B questionnaire. We need to produce a certified copy of the birth certificate of the child, certified copies of the parents' birth certificates. You'll need to show a dependent pass for the child, a valid passport for the child, and in some cases, you may be required to produce police clearance certificates. The third category is Category C, where we have children of Kenyan citizens. This applies to children who are born to Kenyan parents, but they also hold another citizenship that does not allow for dual citizen, or they were born before the parent acquired Kenyan citizenship. So the applicant and the spouse, they may be required to appear before the Permanent Resident Advisory Committee to do an interview. So the requirements for a child is, one, you do a letter to the Director of Immigration. You fill an application form 23, which has to be stamped by either a magistrate or a commissioner for oaths. You need a Category C questionnaire. This is generated upon completion of the online application. You'll need certified copies of the birth certificate issued from the country of domicile. You'll need copies of the parents' birth certificate, Kenyan passport, ID cards, and proof of Kenyan citizenship. You'll need a certified copy of the current passport of that child. And in some instances, you may be required to produce a copy of the police clearance certificate. The processing fee for this permanent residency is 10,000, and upon approval, you pay 500,000. The fourth and the final category is a spouse to a Kenyan citizen. This applies where a foreigner is married to a Kenyan. They should be married for a period exceeding 3 years, and their marriage is still valid. And you need to prove that the marriage is not for the purpose of just getting a permanent residence here in Kenya. The applicant and the spouse may be required to appear before the committee for an interview to confirm and verify the information that you've provided. So the requirements are as follows. An application letter. This is done by the Kenyan spouse to the Director of Immigration. You'll need a duly filled, signed and stamped Form 23, a duly filled Category D questionnaire, a duly filled resident status. You'll need police clearance certificate, the original copy. You need to demonstrate marriage and family life. You need a certified copy of the marriage certificate if the marriage was solemnized here in Kenya. If it was not solemnized in Kenya, you'll need to provide a joint sworn-in affidavit by the spouses. You'll need either passport, ID card, or birth certificate of the Kenyan spouse, a copy of the birth certificate, passport, and of the foreign spouse. You'll need copies of work permits or dependent pass that the spouse has held before. You need to provide a valid foreigner certificate or alien card for the foreign spouse and a copy of the police clearance. So the processing fee for this is 5,000. Upon approval, you pay 50,000 for issuance. Yeah, that's the end for permanent residency, unless there's a question. Samuel?
Thank you, Mercy, for that. I'm seeing various queries, so let's start with the first one. Can you apply for the permanent residency for the whole family at once, or do you first need to get the permanent residency for the applicant holding the 7 years of permits, and then afterwards the spouse and children? So what's the procedure basically? Someone who has a family.
Dennis, can you assist with that?
Okay, so sorry. For this, we need the principal family member. Let's say the first person, probably it's the husband who has applied for this, has to apply first, because this application of the spouse has to be dependent of the other person, unless now the other person is a Kenyan. So first of all, you have to apply for that, and then the other person applies. So then the number 2 question was, yes, about the children have to pay 500,000. Yes, it's every application. It's 500,000, and for each application, basically, there is no shortcut to it. Then recently, sometime back, I think just before the close of last year, these fees were going to be changed at some point. There was a circular that went around, but it's back to Parliament for discussion. We don't know how it's going to go, but let's see, and we'll advise as this changes. So that was Eric Labi's question. I hope I've answered.
So my question is also now from a practical perspective. All this information that you've given us, someone who's savvy can get it basically. When it comes to the key thing here now is processing time. So maybe you can just give a rundown from ETA, the one that is, I think you said there's one for emergency, all the way to permanent residency, because even one of the question that we've been asked is someone who has already lodged. There's all this back and forth with immigration, and you start worrying about your status in the country. So based on your experience, you can give typical timelines that people can work with, so that now it's very clear. So beginning from ETA all the way to permanent residency.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. So this whole thing, most of it is dependent on immigration timelines. But when we start from ETA up to citizenship at the end, so for ETA, we've seen we are doing 3 days prior to you traveling. So that's pretty much straightforward. For the emergency cases, it's about 24 hours, as we've seen in the slides before. Then once you get the ETA, you've stayed there for 3 months. In your second month, probably you want to stay longer, so you start applying for the special pass. Special pass takes about 2 weeks to be for the application, uploads and everything, processing fees, and then paying of the fees, the 15,000 shillings. That's about 2 weeks time frame you're looking at. All right, so you've already done the special pass. You're in your 3 months, the first 3 months. Now you start the second 3 months of the special pass. That's when you apply for the work permit. So the work permit takes around a month for its approval. So you see, you have to plan your calendar very, very strategically so that you're not at any point an illegal in Kenya. Then after you do your work permit, so probably you've been given a work permit for around a year, 2 years, you start in let's say you've been given a year. In your 6th month, during your 6 months of the work permit, of the 1-year work permit, like halfway of that period, start applying for your permanent residency, because even the permanent residency stays for long. You see, it stays for about 6 months going on once. So that's the time frame, because there's a lot of background checks, especially with the permanent residency, because basically you're becoming a Kenyan only that you can't be able to vote and can't freehold property. So I mean, basically a lot of checks happen in immigration, and this will take time. So that is expected. So you just need to really plan. If it lapses, you have to, like the case which I've seen up there, you'll definitely have to renew your work permit. So you have to look at those timelines very critically and be proactive in those applications. So that's the process from the ETA to permanent residency. Then afterwards, in the second webinar, we are going to look at the citizenship and all that pertains to it. It's also a bit longer of a webinar. But up to that point, those are the timelines we are looking at. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. So the other question is from Eric. So he said it's very clear in terms of the application process. But then after everything, you've lodged the application, and assuming that everything goes well, and you can see most people are worried about, once we've lodged the documents, am I going to get the work permit on time? And it's not going to be rejected, or even the permanent residency. Then do the spouse and the children then get PR as well, or do they become something like dependent on the one with the PR for the rest of their lives? Or is the spouse then also getting her own PR and allowed to work?
Okay. So the PR side of it, the husband has a PR, the wife is also holding a PR. So the question was that, do the spouse and children then get PR as well, or do they become something like dependents? You already have the spouse and become their own entity. Dependency pass will be if they are here for a short time period. But if they're here for a long time period, basically it means you have to, it's permanent residency for each and every person. You see, they've all paid the 500,000 that we have looked at. But if they are here for a short time period, dependency pass will apply. I hope I've answered you, Eric.
So just to conclude, my understanding from that is that everyone gets their own PR. It's not dependent on
yes.
the other.
Yes.
Okay. So the other question is from Wanjiko Karaoke, that if a person has a work permit and happens to change jobs still within the country, are they required to apply for another permit with a new employer?
Okay. Thank you, Njiko. This is, you see, your application was with Company X. You're in Kenya already. Let's say your work permit is going for 2 years. In the second year, you're going to Company Y. That becomes a totally different application. You have to apply for another, because you see, who is supporting you being here? It's Company X, but you ceased contract with Company X. So it's only logical for you to apply the work permit, a different work permit with Company Y. So if for example, this immigration department guys just come to Company Y and they find you with work permit for Company X, your guess is as good as mine, because I mean that becomes a problem. So you have to be a legal, you have to, who is supporting you? You're in Kenya because of who? So yeah, I hope I've answered that.
Yeah, so it's quite clear that you'll need a new work permit based on your new employer. So I've seen we've passed time a lot, so it's 20 minutes past. I'll give you just a brief overview of who we are. We are Sterling Africa, which is an accounting and audit firm. We are a spin-off of a company. The first company that was set up was TaxWise Africa, which is a tax and legal firm. And then because of the requirements from our clients, we set up the accounting and audit side, which we provide BPO and audit services. And under BPO is where you're going to find employment management services, so your payroll, outsource HR services, and immigration services. And we provide around the clock service. Sometimes even clients will call me or call the team at night because one case that I remember that was called very late is a client who was traveling from Kenya to Tanzania, but they had not gotten the EAC pass. So you wake up and basically make sure that they've gotten the documents. Luckily, it was through eCitizen, which is quite easy. So we do provide round the clock, and our commitment to you is to make sure that you get your work permits, you get your special passes, you get your ETA, you get your permanent residency and citizenship within a reasonable timeline. So from the application time, we make sure that we have a proper calendar, like Dennis has stated, so that by the time your pass is expiring, by the time your ETA is expiring, by the time your work permit needs renewal, we're going to give you a heads up and start the process quite early to avoid the last minute rush, because sometimes immigration does delay. There are very many delay in terms of getting your documents proper, which now impacts you negatively. So to avoid that, a proper timeline is there and it's put in place, and communication continuously since you're dealing with such a sensitive. So we're available. You can contact us. I believe our commercial team have put our contacts there, but you can reach us through email, telephone, through our socials, and we'll be able to, and even come to our office here in Lavington, and we'll be able to offer you a stress-free, make sure that we take care of your immigration matters properly. So for now, I'll end the webinar there. One of the questions by one of the participants is if the recording will be shared. Yes, it will be shared. And we look forward to more engagement in the next webinar when we're talking about citizenship, and maybe also discuss about practicality. Basically, what are the issues that we found when you're doing the processing? So from your alien card to making sure you get your PIN so that now you're able to operate within the country properly without any issues. So looking forward to hosting you again, and also we'll bring in third parties in terms of Can Invest and also the immigration services. So also they can give their perspective on how to make sure that you get your documentation properly and in good time. So thank you everyone for your time. And I hope the event has been, or the webinar has been informative. Asanteni sana, enjoy your Friday and your weekend ahead. Thank you.